Let's go now to our diplomatic editor, James Bays, who's at the UN's headquarters in New York. James.
Yeah, Jonah, really a historic moment here at the United Nations with the speech of the Syrian president, the first president of a free Syria. Let's get reaction to what we've seen. I am joined by the Syrian ambassador to the United Nations, Ibrahim Olabi. Thank you very much for joining us first. I mean, I've seen people, I've heard about Damascus and Aleppo, people celebrating. I've seen people in New York draped in the Syrian flag in the last couple of hours. Just your emotion on what you saw having your president at that podium.
Well, it's an absolutely historic moment because we've been denied that seat for decades. And even when the regime had it, it misused it. That seat was not just denied for the Syrian people, it was used to abuse the Syrian people, control the narrative against the Syrian people, show them that the regime is here to stay. Well, today the answer was no, it isn't. For us to be sitting behind the Syria placard, having Syrians on the street outside of New York, cheering on, having Syrians in the gallery coming and joining after already a very three full eventful days of meeting heads of states and prime ministers and kings and presidents and meeting and starting the mission with the Syrian community. Everything has been incredibly overwhelming. But the speech itself really focused on this idea of what a new Syria will look like and what the former Syria will look like. The Assad regime was so much an enemy of the Syrian people as much as an enemy of the international world. So absolutely a historical moment.
And I just want to focus a moment on you. I know you're not the story, but you only gave your credentials to the Secretary General of the UN last week. Last year, you were a human rights lawyer working a lot on Syria, based in London. A year ago, it was the regime's foreign minister, Bassam Sabah, who gave the speech here. Did you think there was any chance the regime was ending then?
Not at all. I mean, everything, James, for some reason, our lives as Syrians is extreme, right? The regime fell on its way up politically, right? It was being normalized, it was being celebrated, and so on. And then 14 years ended in 11 days. So of course not. We didn't anticipate that. And as you said, I've been working on Syria, roaming the world, traveling from Argentina to Sierra Leone to Japan, rallying for accountability efforts on chemical weapons and so on. So Syrians like me can get back to Damascus. And now I'm sent from Damascus to the world.
Now, challenges ahead. Number one, lots and lots of sanctions still in place. Yes, some have been lifted, but the UN Security Council ones are still there. Your president speaking at that podium when the Security Council currently say he is a terrorist. Are you going to get those lifted?
I mean, let's start with the first bit. So with the economic sanctions, the vast majority of them are actually lifted. So President Trump delivered, the European Union delivered, other countries also delivered, and they removed everything they could remove. And they suspended those that they couldn't remove because they're congressional. So we're working with members of Congress now to be able to, introduce legislation that kind of eventually fully repeal them. But the American sanctions, for once, the UK sanctions as well, are largely lifted. Now, the UN sanctions target individuals, they don't target Syria as a whole, but even these discussions have advanced significantly, but they're not creating an economic impediment. And that was something that the President spoke about in the speech. Syria is open for business and has been since the 8th of December. We have a lot of MOUs that kind of are starting.
Memorandums of understanding.
Memorandums of understanding that are kind of paving the way for more kind of permanent contracts on ports, airports, and so on. And so there's a lot moving. We met the US Chamber of Commerce here, and none of them raised sanctions as an impediment. So we just need to get rid of whatever is left legally, but we're in a good place.
So a big change for Syria. There are some criticisms, as you know, that the president is keeping quite a tight hold on power. Yes, you have elections coming up, but you're not having free and direct elections. You're having an electoral college, and some of the assembly will be appointed by the president himself. Why not open it up to total democracy?
Well, the first thing is that critics are very welcome. This is the Syria that we fought for and we died for and we got in exile for. So critics are very welcome. The more accurate the criticism, the more that we're able to kind of act upon it. I learned quickly, being a human rights lawyer, that now everything, has different perspectives and so on. So our job in government is to try and push and mitigate and create as much as possible. As you know, the government in itself, as ministers, has Syrian German ministers, has Syrian Canadian ministers, has ministers from the former regime who were there, has Kurdish ministers from Druze. I don't like really this tone because They haven't been selected based on their identity. No. They've been based in order to be able to be inclusive, but also to kind of on their competence. And that's just at ministerial level. You mentioned Minister Hind, for example, who's a Christian woman who's here with us. Minister Hamza, Minister Ra'ad Saleh, who used to be in the white helmets. Someone who's been targeted by the Russians, was sitting today at the podium. So that's the ministerial level. You ask about elections. It's quite interesting that you asked that, because actually some of the UN experts are actually saying that we should take our time in that sense, and that Syria is not ready for a kind of a full election, just because the constituents are all over the place. That's why we have electoral colleges. People don't have residence permits because they've been displaced. Syria has been stuck in time for so long. So the electoral college idea was an ability to get as many Syrians as possible, but open it for anyone to say no to, and anyone to kind of nominate themselves, right? So there are openings for everyone. It's not everyone can vote. It's in the thousands that can, and it's just a temporary matter to fill a legislative gap, because we don't want to be issuing presidential decrees all the time. So it's an idea of getting something that's fit for purpose while we're able to create something bigger. And everything is going to have flaws, and everyone's going to like something and not like something. Our job is to be able to move that, mitigate, adjust, adapt, learn, right? This is the first experience of its kind in so long, so there's a lot for us to learn from what will not go as well, which definitely will happen, and what will go well, and build upon that.
Ibrahim Olabi, former dissident, former human rights lawyer, now Syria's ambassador to the United Nations. Thank you for joining us here on Al Jazeera. Clearly a happy ambassador on a day of celebration for Syrians, Jonah.
James, thank you. James Bays there, our diplomatic editor following events at the General Assembly in New York.
Don't miss out, get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.